Welcome to the Knowledge for Men show. Your life will never be the same.
Your level of success will seldom exceed your level of personal development.
I want to die empty of regret. I want to die empty of my best work. We don't understand who we are. Instead, we're living out somebody else's narrative.
What one man can do, another man can do. If it's been done, it can be done again.
Being yourself and being your truest, most authentic self in every moment. If it scares you or makes you a little afraid, do it. Follow your heart and your gut.
The first stage, I think, is finding you, like finding out who I am today.
Stuff will not work. You will have things that fail. Success is when you're a happy, fulfilled person. How do you define success?
It's your life, and you are the creator of the movie script that is your life story.
How would you like to become unstoppable, irresistible, and unafraid in every area of your life? Get free instant access to my Double Your Confidence program to become a person of action, overcome any obstacle, and scale any height. Go to kfmconfidence.com to get instant access to my program. Again, that's kfmconfidence.com. All right, guys, welcome to the show. I'm here with Alex Charfen. It's actually his second time here on the show. He was on just in February here. Happy to have him back. He's an internationally recognized speaker and business consultant. He's helped tens of thousands of entrepreneurs grow their business through his insights from consulting for billionaires, the Fortune 500, and some of the most successful people in the world. I'm happy to have Alex back here on the show. Alex, welcome aboard.
Thanks, brother. It's great to be here.
All right, Alex, let's dive in now. Last time, the quote that you shared was, "You're only as good as your next speech," which I loved. It's like, bring it. You got to keep bringing it. And so since you're back on, what's another success quote or some sort of saying that you've lived by that you could share with the audience?
There is nothing wrong with you, and you are not alone.
What does that mean to you, and how has that helped you on your journey?
You know, Andrew, when I was younger, I felt like I was so separated from success because I was different. I struggled in school. I didn't have a lot of friends. I was different from most people. And I went out trying to figure out what it took to be successful. So I started researching people who were successful and people who had done something significant, those who I wanted to be like. And what I found was myself. The people who have changed the world, the people who've gone out there and done something, the ones who are making things happen are different and they are unique and they aren't like everyone else. And the challenge with being one of those people that wants to kind of do something different is that you don't look the same as the rest of the world. In fact, the very definition of looking like the rest of the world is average. And those of us who wanted to change things, create our own outcome, make the world a better place, declare the future and bring it forward, sometimes look like we're damaged or we're not like everyone else. And so for me, I want everyone to know there's nothing wrong with you and you are not alone. The very fact that you're listening to this podcast tells you you're one of those people who's out to make a difference.
Yeah. So are you trying to tell me here that that thing that makes me weird is quite possibly my superpower?
It's probably exactly that. You know, the fact is, Helen Keller should have been able to do nothing. She changed the world for disabled people. And you look at what advantages she had. Zero.
Yeah. You look at a lot of guys who have dyslexia, such as Richard Branson, and a lot of these bigger guys who have achieved just massive success. They probably shouldn't have been able to do that if we look at what dyslexia actually means. But being able to use that to your advantage to build an awesome team around you to create greatness.
Andrew, I've met a lot of billionaires, more than most people ever will have the opportunity to do in their lifetimes. And 100% of those who made their own money are dyslexic. Not in 90%, not 85%, every single one.
Dyslexia is a learning disorder where it's very difficult to read and understand new ideas and concepts. I'm looking here online. This is like what the doctors are saying.
So I'm I'm dyslexic, and what dyslexic is, it's a different perception. It lets you see things differently. Richard Branson saw like a music company with a airline, with a delivery system, with a marketing company, and created Virgin. And, you know, Damon John became partners with Samsung, which is essentially the Korean government, when he built Fubu. My friend Dean Graziosi, who, you know, we sat down to lunch one day and there was a written menu in front of him. He turned to me, he said 45 minutes because that's how long it would take him to write it. But he has a massive, massive empire of businesses and real estate and everything else. You know, the fact is that the people who are out doing something different are often the ones who are most different.
Yeah. I'm looking right here, and one of the definitions here is appears bright, highly intelligent, and articulate, but unable to read, write, and spell at a proper level of age.
Yeah.
Sounds like this guy's not going to do too well, but when we look at some of these guys, there's incredible things happening. So you said you just said something that really piqued my interest. You said I've spent more time with billionaires than most people will ever have. What put you in that position, and what is it like to be in that type of presence of a billionaire?
So, Andrew, when I was young, I was very fortunate. At about 21, I became a consultant in the Global and Fortune 100. My first account was Fuji. My second one was SanDisk, the flash memory. My first account was Fuji Media. My third was Fuji Digital Cameras. It was a fast-paced, kind of explosive career. And as part of that, I spent time with people who were growing businesses, who had businesses, and I had several friends who ascended to billionaire. I was in consumer and computer electronics. I was in the 90s, so my career, spanned the 90s. And so it was this explosive time of growth, the dot-com area. People were making millions, people were making billions. And I had several friends who kind of crossed through that threshold. And it's extraordinary to have that experience, because what it's shown me up close, Andrew, is how you really create success in this lifetime. And success absolutely leaves clues. But far too many people are sharing far too many. It's confusing.
Yeah, what do you mean? Like there's too much noise out there. There's too many.
It's such bullshit, man. Most of the stuff that people are out there sharing on success is just not real. It's frameworks that they created in retrospect. It's things that they think might create success for you. They're better at marketing than they are actually creating the result. And the fact is, when you spend time around people who actually create the real outcomes in the world, you realize there's a simplicity to success that we tend to complicate. The fact is
what are some of these frameworks that aren't real? And then let's go into what is simple. How do we make success simple? This is a great topic. Great point.
Well, here's why, Andrew. The fact is that today we've all been to the webinar or the seminar or the experience where the fucktard on stage says something like, write down the biggest goal you've ever had. And then after 20 minutes of getting you hyper about it, he says, cross it out, double it. And now that's your goal. Have you ever done that shit?
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Okay. So that doesn't really work. The total number of people who have created success by creating unrealistic targets that they have no idea how to get there and have actually come through to fruition is zero. And sitting in a seminar when you're making no money and saying, I'm going to have $100 million next year is just stupidity. It doesn't happen. And so there's so much content out there of people who create empty motivation, and the framework, the motivation, the excitement is the deliverable. That's not how we really move forward. And so for me, the way that success is actually created, when you look at how billionaires create success, to put it as simply as I possibly can, billionaires simply tolerate much less than most of us. It's not how much they do. It's what they don't allow in their lives. They don't allow the wrong people. They don't allow the wrong type of information. They don't allow time to be wasted. They certainly don't allow distractions from the goal or the outcome that they have. And what they don't do is sit down and put down unrealistic, silly numbers on a sheet of paper, cross them out and double them. That is not how success is created. What works is creating a business around who you are that's adaptable, that on a daily basis creates more process, more system, and more support around the unique outcome that you create in the world. And having watched that up close, Andrew, I can tell you that what it looks like is being vulnerable and transparent and real with the people around you so that they actually understand what's really going on for you. And that's how you move forward. Anyone who says, fake it until you make it, write down the biggest number, cross it out and double it, all of those guys, they're still faking it until they make it, and they're doing the same shit you are. They've never been successful.
So I'm getting this picture that we need to have more clear boundaries of what we allow and disallow into our lives so that we can focus on real tangible results.
Absolutely, Andrew. I mean, I think that, one of the challenges for people today is we are on data overload.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't even know if I have when I scroll down Facebook, I was just on Facebook before the chat, and it's all different people telling me something that I need to be doing. Even the businesses and even just regular people just sharing some articles, sharing something, and just putting a lot of noise out there. It's like, what do I do? How do I focus on what really matters? How can I tell what's fake and what's not fake?
Yeah. And you know what, Andrew? It's not just that. It's how do you move forward with perspective so that you know you're actually creating an outcome? Because in the world today, you look at things like Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and Snapchat and everything else, man, you can be incredibly busy without creating a real outcome. I think that's one of the most dangerous places people like you and I get. So, the frameworks that work are those that don't write the biggest number you've ever had, cross it out and double it. Let's figure out how you create success right now, moving forward. What does that look like? Where are you successful now? What can you capitalize on? How do you amplify that to move forward? Where are you uncomfortable? How do you start minimizing the things that make you uncomfortable? I always tell people, if you're building a business and each day is getting harder for you to execute, I don't mean harder as far as like more vulnerable, more transparency, more personal growth, pushing myself harder, but harder to execute like hours in the day. If you're building a business and it's getting harder to execute every day, you're building a house of cards.
Mm. Yeah, we're like building a Frankenstein, like a monster.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay. And so now, what are some, just to make someone listening, what are some daily habits that would make someone more successful at this?
Oh, I'm glad you asked that, Andrew. When I talk to, especially like the younger people on my team or new executives, one of the things I share with everyone is that the difference between the people I know who have experienced long-term success,
right,
and the people I know who experience either sporadic or limited success are daily habits.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really is the difference. You probably heard the same thing in the interviews you've done.
Absolutely. It's simple things done over a long period of time. Playing, I interviewed Bo Eason. He calls it, you play the long game in life.
Love Bo Eason.
Be prepared for a 10, 15-year journey, and you can't fail.
I love Bo Eason. He's one of the most intense dudes I've ever met.
He is super. And I felt like he was going to come through the mic and suck me into the story that he shared.
No kidding. No kidding. That's Bo.
Yeah.
So here's some of the personal, like the daily habits that you can have. So let's simplify this. I want to give you some really simple ones. Number one, we are more reactive today than we've been at any other time in human history. We just react. We get into this state of reactivity where we're not creating, we're not proactively deciding what we're going to do with our lives. So one of the daily habits, we call it planning in solitude. You get up in the morning, no screens, and you write down the answers to two questions. Really simple. What is my intention for today? So you look at, what are you doing and what's your intention? And that doesn't mean here's my to-do list. I write down things like, I've got Andrew today at noon. I want to make sure that we get everything we can out of that podcast. That's actually an A podcast for us. And I've already been on it. And so I'm going to go listen to the other one first and make sure I don't repeat any of the information. There's an intention there. The second thing that I answer each day is, where was I uncomfortable yesterday? I'm going to say it again. Where was I uncomfortable yesterday? Andrew, there's very few programs or frameworks or anything like that out there that tell you to look at things that you are uncomfortable with. Like the power of positive thinking has taken over, and we're not even allowed to look at what we're uncomfortable with, right?
Right.
And it's so silly because most entrepreneurs today are in such a hyper positive thinking state that they live somewhere between denial and faking it. Mm-hmm. And I answer every day, where was I uncomfortable yesterday? Because that's how you offload what you should not be doing and change behavior. Lee Iacocca, who saved Chrysler, one of the most intense executives in the history of the world and one of the most amazing CEOs the United States has seen, especially in modern day, said the speed of the boss is the speed of the team. And entrepreneurs have misinterpreted that. That means I've got to hustle 17 hours a day. That is not true. There's some people who are on social media kind of perpetuating this 17 to 20 hour a day bullshit. That's just silly. That's just burnout. That's just hurting yourself. I've never seen anybody long-term do that and survive, succeed, or be happy. The reality is that when you know who you are, you know how you're moving forward. You don't have to do this 24/7 all of the time. That'll kill you. So sitting down and understanding where you're going, what's your intention? Where were you uncomfortable yesterday? The speed of the boss is the speed of the team. Doesn't mean go as fast as you can. It means how fast Can you offload what makes you uncomfortable so that you get into your strengths every day? I think, Andrew, that is like the biggest one that I've used with just about anyone I've ever worked with, every CEO I've worked with. That daily planning, those 2 questions, focusing in on that, I can tell you that has absolutely created billionaires.
And what do we do? I understand what is my intention for today. And I like how you separate. It's not like, what are my daily tasks for the day? It's like, what is my main intention for the day? I really like that, just to pinpoint that. And then where was I uncomfortable yesterday? So, okay, I come up with something. And now what do I do with that?
So, Andrew, here's what's interesting about all of these practices. I learned this not from going to a class, not from listening to anybody, but from going and looking at the journals of people that I really respected. You can get the journals of Dale Carnegie, Napoleon Hill, Rockefeller. You can actually look at what they did.
Wait, where do you get these journals?
You can go. There's
all mine.
They're all over the place, but you can look online. There's a lot of archives that have been put online. There's libraries that are online where you can pull stuff up. I mean, they're available. So it takes a while.
The Googles.
Yeah, and it might take you a bit. But what you see is they did these things, and I think that here's where we're in this weird habit. I write down where I was uncomfortable the day before. Like I might write down in the morning, yesterday I was uncomfortable. I didn't see my kids enough. And I don't immediately carry it over to a to-do list, because I think that in today's world, we're like, if I write down where I'm uncomfortable, then I have to have the reciprocal to-do list item where it gets fixed, and then I can check the box, and then I'm not uncomfortable anymore. That's bullshit. The practice is more of a meditation where we sit down and say, where are we uncomfortable? We write it down. You know what happens, Andrew? Whether you put it on your to-do list or not, if you say, I'm uncomfortable because I didn't spend enough time with my daughter yesterday, the 3rd time you write it down, something's going to change. And so the practice is more one of awareness than one of a process through which you eliminate each item. But what happens is when we write it down, here's this whole new perspective you get on your life. What's my intention and where was I uncomfortable? Day after day after day after day shows you where am I succeeding and what do I need to offload? And then at the end of each week, we do a weekly review. Our team does, I do, all of our clients do. And we ask 2 questions. What went right? Where am I creating momentum? And where do I need support to move forward? Where do I need to clear constraint? These simple questions daily. What's my intention? Where was I uncomfortable? Weekly. What went right? Where do I need support to move forward? It seems too simple. People say, oh, that's so simple. I'm going to add some more stuff to it. I'm going to tell my team to do more things there. If you just do that, it's like a rocket fuel for anyone who's trying to create momentum.
Wow. Okay. I'm seeing how all of this is coming together here. And so walk us through, because you're seeing, and why I have you back on here in such a short amount of time since the last episode is you've been growing, your whole career. But right now I'm seeing this, you're just speaking everywhere. I'm like, Alex Charfen. And saw you at the San Diego event here in ClickFunnels. Absolutely crushed it. And I've just seen a lot of other things with different media channels. What does your daily, so you're growing a lot. What does your daily routine look like? Are you waking up at like 4:30? What does your daily routine look like from morning, afternoon, evening, and even going into, if you don't mind, some of the pastimes? Like what do you do for fun and things like that?
Sure, Andrew. So anybody who wants to follow my daily routine can on Snapchat. I put a lot of stuff on there with just tips kind of about what I do. Daily routine has been an obsession of mine for a long time. When you read about successful people, one of the things that you very quickly realize is the vast majority of them were obsessed with routine. Yeah. So I get up each day right around 4:30. I hyperhydrate. I actually have a program called Natural Thirst that anyone who wants to can download it at getthirstynow.com, like getthirstydrinkwaternow.com. And the reason I hyperhydrate is we dehydrate overnight. So I drink water. Then I have a green smoothie. I do my planning in solitude. Then normally I do some type of movement while I'm finishing my planning in solitude. I go out, I walk for 20 minutes. We have a gym in the house. I'll do some type of workout. I might use our infrared sauna in the morning. And then I head from there to, most mornings I go to a really specialized gym called NewFit that uses direct current electricity to fold the nervous system into higher capacity for workouts. Then I come into the office. I have a 9 o'clock executive huddle, a 9:17 huddle with my team. It usually takes till 10. Then for the rest of the day, my team manages my time. They normally tell me what meetings I have to be in, what recordings I need to do. And I'm spending time with individual members of my team or team members in groups. And again, that's usually on Snapchat too. A lot of people like watching that. And then Katie and I leave the office, or I leave the office somewhere between 5 and 6 most days. And then I go home and spend time with the kids. And I might check in at night with some stuff. But I really, after we leave between 5 and 6:30. And when we get home, we don't really do a lot more. And so for me, pastimes, these days, Andrew, I spend a lot of time with my kids. I have a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old that I love spending time with. Katie and I travel. We're headed out to Aspen in the next couple weeks. I spend a lot of time on my fitness and hang out with my team a lot. And then the one kind of side pastime that I have, I used to golf, and that did not survive children, but I do still race cars. And so when there's a good track day or a good track event, I'll pull one of my cars out and go put it on a track and see if we can go fast.
What kind of car is that?
So I have a few, but the one that I take out to the track most often is a 2005 911 that was put together by an organization out in California called GMG. And it's a motocross car, or a street cross car that was created just to go really fast on big racetracks. And so the guy who owned it before me bought it for 120 grand. I have the receipts. The next day, he took it to a shop, dropped it off, and spent $130,000 upgrading it. So it's an insane car, and that's the one I use most often.
Okay. So not a street legal car, I'm assuming.
It's kind of street legal. It has a license plate.
Okay, well, you're in Texas, right? Maybe the rules are...
There's no way that car would even be able to get down the street in California, but here in Texas, I get away with it.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So I like diving into routines of people. And the thing with routines is it's not sexy. Nothing really happens day to day where at the end of the week, maybe you're just like, oh, all this crazy success, but it's just putting in the time. It's like, okay, a month goes by, 6 months goes by, you're starting to make some big changes. And when you look at the months, when you look at the blocks, and then even years, that's a bigger block. And it's like, wow, those daily routines absolutely paid off. Just doing a little bit of work, a little bit of work, a little bit of work each day. Sit for everything. I mean, this goes with going to the gym, even your relationships, business, all this stuff. So I like going into the routines and daily habits of people. I'm surprised, 4:30, man, that's tough. What time are you going to bed at?
Between 10 and 11, probably.
Yeah.
It's funny what you just said about relationships and routines. My wife, Katie, always says, process isn't in a marriage is not sexy, but you end up having a lot more sex. I agree.
So do you mean, are you scheduling out your I'm just kidding.
Well, here's what we schedule out. We schedule monthly meetings where we sit down and look at our finances. We align every day, and then we sit down once a week and kind of look at where we are.
That's great. I've heard of a lot of people doing this, and they seem to be getting just fantastic results. Like, it kind of takes a little bit of upfront work to get that routine going, but once it's going, you start seeing results and it becomes a habit.
Yeah, we wouldn't do it any other way.
Wow. So you're kind of treating your relationships like a business.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I think
like a PowerPoint presentation. You're like, this is where we were last week, and we've made incremental changes in first quarter.
No, but we have spreadsheets, Andrew.
Okay. So now, so kind of going into like the personal, and I think the personal is very important to get in a kind of a deeper view of what Alex is up to. But what would you say is some of the advanced stuff that you think about on a daily basis, but you're not sharing or teaching yet?
I think that most of the advanced stuff is all the hypernutrition and hyperhydration. I think the biggest breakthroughs we've made, there's a ton as far as the cadence and the new information that we're teaching. But if you want to talk about daily routines and advanced stuff, Andrew, it's getting way more water than you ever have, because it creates mind-body connection. It is the only way your body detoxifies. Again, the only way your body detoxifies. And so getting way more water, and then stop worrying about calories or fat or ketosis or any of this shit. Start worrying about nutrients per calorie. Nutrients per calorie. Eliminate processed foods. You don't stand a chance. And how do you get the highest level of nutrients per calorie? Those are two of the biggest things that will change people's lives.
So drink a lot of water and eat real food.
Eat real whole foods and not just drink a lot of water. Go to getthirstynow.com. And Andrew, here's the deal. You don't want to have a little bit more water. This 8x8, 8-ounce glasses, it just doesn't make sense. We have all suppressed our natural thirst. And that's why we have to work at drinking water. So what we've done is we put together a program that shows you how to reawaken your natural thirst. I have 120-pound little personal trainers. One, her name's Claire here in Austin, who's drinking like 180 ounces of water a day. There's athletes that don't do that much, but once you start drinking and you recognize your thirst, you'll drink a lot more. And then it's not just eat real foods, Andrew. It's get rid of all the processed stuff, all the supplements, all the weird things that you're putting in your body, and get back to eating the foods that have the highest nutritional values.
Yeah, I like that. One of my friends, and somewhat mentor, Sean Croxton at Underground Wellness, his brand is Jerf, just eat real food.
Yeah, I love that.
Like, just fuck, like all this paleo, all this crazy, different diets. Just Jerf it, and you'll be good.
Yeah, I mean, if you're making the food and it's real, you're probably good. It's hard to hurt yourself that way.
It is hard. Alex, it's been fantastic. Let's dive into the knowledge round. Just going to go deeper with a few more rapid fire questions here. So, Alex, ready for the knowledge round?
I'm in.
After 200 plus interviews, I've identified the most common trait of success as confidence. Whether you're trying to achieve financial freedom or improving your relationships, confidence is what separates those who get what they want in life and those who don't get what they want in life. So before a man sets out on his journey, it's important that he has the confidence in himself to accomplish his goals and his dreams. You have to have this area of your life taken care of in order to create the life that you want. That's why I've created a free program to double your confidence in less than 30 minutes with this weird but simple set of exercises. Go to kfmconfidence.com. Again, that's kfmconfidence.com to transform your life. Welcome to the Knowledge Round, where the guests will be asked rapid-fire questions to give the audience invaluable pieces of wisdom to help transform their lives. Starting in 3, 2, 1, showtime. What advice would you give to someone who's feeling really lost about what they should be doing, work-wise?
The plan is built day to day. Sit down and really build it in each day. Figure out what you're going to do that day to move forward, and then get perspective the next day and do it again. Far too many people are trying to solve it all at once and say, where do I want to be at the end of my life? That is a really hard way to do it. Sit down each day, make improvements, move in a direction, and you'll find you get there a lot faster than trying to figure it out before you ever have tried.
Yeah. Like I'm getting this whole, the name of the episode is probably going to be something about routines here. Alex, what was holding you back from becoming the man you are now today?
A lack of awareness about who I was and what type of effect I was creating in the world.
Okay. And how can we develop awareness, self-awareness?
Now this is just going to get silly, but I think that we develop self-awareness through slowing the world down. And part of doing that is through creating a routine so that when there is contrast in our day, when something is different, we actually see it. When we get up every day and we're doing something different. I mean, I know people who get ready in a different way every day. They get up at a different time every day. They don't really have a rhyme or reason to their lives. And so when something's different or extraordinary or is moving in a good direction, it's hard for them to see the contrast.
Yeah. Yeah. Or kind of like unconscious living.
Yeah. And here's what's interesting. Albert Einstein wore the same clothes all the time. So did Steve Jobs.
Right. Yeah.
We start looking at these totally. And there's these big similarities. Like I wear the same clothes all the time. People ask me why. Because it's easy to get up in the morning and just grab a shirt and grab a pair of pants. I don't have to worry about it. They all match. And the reason is what's really important to me is something completely different than that. So what's important kind of takes over when you let it.
Yeah, I like that. Talking about mentors now, I'm just curious. I mean, you've surrounded yourself with so many high-level people through your entire career and continue to do so. Can you name someone who's had a tremendous impact on your life? And if so, what did he or she do for you?
Absolutely. When I was in junior high school, so Andrew, I don't know that I would say I was suicidal, but I do remember asking the question, like, why am I here? And why am I even doing this? And should I keep doing this? And I think a lot of kids get there. And when I was 13, I went to high school and I accidentally got put in this class called forensics. And it wasn't like science. It was forensic speaking. Like it was the speech class where you did impromptu speaking, expository speech, and it was competitive. And I met this teacher, Rick Lara, and it was the first time in my life where an adult outside of my parents, who had always told me that I was great, but every other adult had kind of told me in one way or another that I sucked. Not everyone, but most.
Yeah. Okay.
Like even the adults I liked ended up
messages.
right. Like even the adults I liked ended up having to tell me I had an F or something because I wasn't good at stuff. And Rick saw something in me, and I did really well in that class. He taught me how to speak. He's been my speech coach since I was 13. So it's been 30 years. And to have a mentor like that I was able to go back to and check in with and really taught me about life and how to be competitive and how to speak. It's been an incredible tool for me. Having that continuity in my life has been amazing.
You know, it's interesting you bring that up because I'm reading this book by Michael Masterson. He says it's the most important skills of the most successful people in the world. That's the name of this chapter. And number one was your ability to speak effectively and articulate what you're trying to say.
Agreed. Yeah, I totally agree.
Like above everything, above sales, above marketing, above all this, he's just like, learn how to speak effectively.
You know, Andrew, what's interesting is for me, I see speaking as such an advantage that I'm willing to do things. Like I know that if I can put myself in a situation that I can be successful. Like as an example, if I invest in a company, I want a board seat. Most people say a board seat's insignificant. All you get to do is talk when there's decisions made. If you don't have a majority, you can't really do anything. Here's what I know. If I'm in the room, I'll get a majority if I need to. I've been speaking since I was 13. I have debated thousands of people. I've had literally thousands of hours of coaching from Rick Lara. And so as a business person, I know that if I'm in the room and I have the ability to express myself, I've got an advantage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Interestingly here, as I was looking up dyslexia when we were talking about that earlier, and I just, while you're talking, it says dyslexia, high in IQ, yet may not test well academically, but tests well orally, but not written, excels well with storytelling.
By the time I graduated from high school, there was 27 different categories of records in the competitive speaking program. So it was number of medals, number of tournament wins, all kinds of stuff like that. I had every one of them when I graduated.
Yeah. I'm just thinking of all these other high level people too. Like even Steve Jobs he's great. I think he's just a marketer, but through story and through effectively communicating his message across. That's interesting. Dyslexia.
Yeah.
All right. What are you reading these days, Alex? What are you reading in the day? What are you reading in the evenings?
Oh, man. During the day these days, we're looking at all kinds of different books because we're working on products right now. So we're looking at what are people saying about behavioral theory? What are people saying about success? What are people saying about how we create habits, how we don't create habits, and assimilating it into our understanding of the entrepreneurial personality type. So I'm not kidding you. As I sit here, there's probably 35 books on a shelf that have recently been brought in that we are tearing into. Me personally, I am such a weird habitual reader that I am on my third or fourth time reading a book called Pendulum by a friend of mine, Michael Drew. It's Michael and Roy. I can't remember Roy's last name right now, but it's an intense book. It's in my office at home right now, and it's all about the marketing or sociological periods we have where we focus on the individual versus the tribe. So when we go from a me to a we generation, and anybody who hasn't read Pendulum, I'm telling you, it is the most valuable but least selling book that is out there on marketing. But if you read that book and you internalize it, it's like being able to tell the future in marketing.
Wow. Okay. Who's the author again?
Michael Drew. And Andrew, that's one I can't recommend it highly enough. I mean, Michael's a genius. The book sometimes it's a little hard to get through because it's dense with content, but push through, persevere. Because once you understand it, you have an unfair advantage in marketing meetings.
So how past generations shape our present and predict.
That's it.
Okay.
Cool. Yep. That's it.
All right. Anything else?
No, that's what I'm reading. I mean, that one I'm really obsessed with. You know what's funny, Andrew, is about once every year or two, I pull out the first edition copy of Think and Grow Rich that Katie got me, and I'm reading that again now too. And It's crazy how much influence that thing has.
Yeah, I think
I read it off the original pages.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I feel like that's an annual book. Like someone could always go through and pick up something new every single time.
No question.
Same with like How to Win Friends and all those. But
No question. Those two, right? Those are the best two books there are.
yeah, we're always like looking for another book that's actually just similar to that book. But why don't we just read the book that we know works?
Well, I might have one for you.
Okay.
So the entrepreneurial personality type book, I don't know if we talked about it last time we were together, but we published a book. It is the least selling book of all time. Rather than go out and sell 50,000 books, we published 500 and we're giving them to individuals with an ask. We're saying, hey, if we give you this book, will you pass it on and make sure that it gets passed on 100 times? So 500 books 100 times, that's 50,000 people reading the book. Well, here's what's happened, Andrew. We sent out about 450 and it's already working. Tons of people are passing it on. But we kind of created this problem because we have 450 people now saying, hey, I gave the book away, but I want to read it again. And we made this really short book called The Entrepreneurial Personality Type. It's about the most misunderstood population in history, people like you and I. It takes about 2 hours to read. And we've just been pounded now by people saying, what do? We want to be able to see it again. So there's this very cool thing that we're doing. This is one of the first places, I think the first place I'm announcing it. If you go to charfen.com, charfen.com/free book, you can download that book for free in PDF. And it's a replica of the one that we put out in the limited edition. Andrew, here's why I bring it up. And I know this sounds bold. But when Adam and I wrote that, I wrote it and Adam's my co-writer. He works with us here. Our goal was to write a book that had the same density of information per page as Think and Grow Rich and How to Win Friends. And we wouldn't push send until we felt like that happened. And although we don't have anywhere near the same amount of volume, it's only about a 2-hour read. We've had a lot of people tell us that we achieved that. I would love to get your feedback.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I'll check that out, and I'm sure all the listeners here will check that out as well. Back here to this, there was something that came up. You're familiar with Gary Vaynerchuk, obviously.
I am.
He posted a video about how this time of year there's obviously a lot of people graduating, whether they're in college or they're graduating grad school, their MBA. They're in this period of life where they are available and open to the real world. And he talks about how don't waste this opportunity because you can take so much risk right now. Instead of trying to cash in on your degree and get the first available job with the salary and benefits, go and do something bold. And
I agree.
I wanted to bring this topic because I feel like it's relevant for just the month that we're in right now. And by the time this publishes, it'll be very relevant. What is your advice to someone who is in that space right now?
I think it's all up to the person. It depends on the person. Like I would love to encourage everybody, be bold, go do something on your own, go start a business, go, you know what? But it's not right for everyone. And if it's not right for you, that's totally okay. But here's what I want anyone who's listening to think about. If you have that thought in the back of your mind that says, hey, you should do something more important here. If you've had like that inkling that says there's something more for you, you should do more, you're able to give more, you can create more, there's a bigger outcome here. And you have that doubt because you don't know if it's you that should take advantage of it. You don't know if you're capable of doing it. You don't know if you should do it. Here's my contention and my argument. The very fact that you had that thought creates 100% of the fact that you can make it come true. And so I don't think it's for everyone, but for anyone who's listening, whoever felt like they could do something significant, that thought is the gatekeeper letting you know you can.
Yeah, powerful. And right now, we got everyone excited. And as soon as we end the call, they'll maybe feel a little less excited and kind of the fear of failure will creep in. What's your view on failure? And what have you learned from so many other people like these billionaires on failure? How do they handle it?
Andrew, I think that the perspective on failure is all about your perspective on life. Mm-hmm. If you're one of those people whom for right now, this moment is the most important thing, like how does everybody care of me right now, then failure is going to be very difficult for you.
Right.
But if you can create the perspective that we have a lot to be able to do in this life. And that when we have what most people call a failure, that eventually we learn from it. I have a lot easier time moving forward these days because I know that as long as I have a high level of awareness and I understand what I'm doing and I pay attention, that there is no failure. There's only creating new perspective and more knowledge. And so what I've learned repeatedly is that the only time you fail is when you stop.
Yeah. And we let that, it's like we keep trying and trying and trying. We're not seeing the results. And there's that moment where we either decide we're going to keep going and we're in it, or we throw in the towel and try the next thing. I feel like everyone has that moment. And I don't know if there's much to say there other than like it has to come from that individual to keep pushing, to keep fighting, to go for that thing that they really want to go for. Could be anything. Could be anything.
Yeah. I think one of the reasons we're here as human beings is to explore that. Why are you really here and what outcome should you be creating? And let's be really honest. Anyone who's listening to a podcast like this one, Andrew, especially with you hosting it, isn't part of the masses. The fact is that the majority of the population, almost everyone out there, is striving to become average, and they cling desperately to the status quo. And people like us are, constantly trying to change things and create something new and create our own outcome in the world. So I think for that person who is on the cusp of being able to do that, who doesn't know whether they should continue or throw the towel in or whatever it is, this too shall pass. And you can overcome this. And if you clarify what's going on for yourself today and you figure out what your next few steps are, you can move forward just like anyone else has. And it doesn't matter the diagnosis, the condition, the situation, the disease, whatever you find yourself in, however you find yourself stuck, one of us has been there before and they've overcome it.
Yeah. And maybe had it worse off too.
No question.
Maybe had it worse off too. But yeah, this has been, that's a good note to end the knowledge round on. I think that's very powerful content there. And Alex, what would you say is really exciting you today? Like, what are you looking forward to for the rest of the year?
Andrew, we got this event center built here in Austin, and it has just been amazing. Katie and I, my wife and I built this 10,000 square foot event center. We've got 2 huge event spaces. We've got some equipment manufacturers dropping some free stuff in here. We are in a parking complex where our events, people who come and do our 2-day events, they walk from their hotel. We share a parking lot in like this big, huge outdoor mall area. We have 14 or 15 restaurants, and they just keep making this place better. So we are so excited to have more people come to Austin, get exposed to our stuff, and create momentum and move forward.
Awesome. All right, guys, that's great. I'm loving the expansion and the growth that you're having and the impact that you're making on this world, Alex. And so for all the listeners, you can follow up with Alex at charfen.com. I'll spell that out, CHARFEN.com. You can just Google Alex Charfen too, and you'll come up with all different kinds of mediums like other interviews and other things that he's created available for you guys as well.
And the First Knowledge for Men podcast comes up pretty high too.
Yeah, it does actually. Yeah. I just Google your name, it pops right up. It's great. And Alex, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing just more of your journey, more of the lessons, and more of this incredible things that you're doing with your career and your company, your organization.
I appreciate it, brother. And I would love to come back anytime, and can't wait to get you down to Austin, Andrew. This is an enterprise that you have growing here. We'd love to see you build an entire team around it.
Absolutely. Thank you for listening to the Knowledge for Men podcast. Hundreds of interviews and millions of downloads later, we're continuing to build an international movement, and we're just getting started. So if you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and leave a helpful review in iTunes, because it really helps the podcast grow so we can impact even more men in the world who need this. Guys, this is all about living with purpose, where every day you only do things that matter to you. You wake up, live with purpose, and take massive action towards the life you want. And always remember, love the life you have while creating the life of your dreams. Go to kfmfree.com to get a surprise bonus I've made for my listeners. Again, that's kfmfree.com for something that's changed my life, and I'm offering it to you for free. Also, check out my Amazon best-selling books that I've written for you to help you crush life at kfmfree.com. kfmauthor.com. Again, that's kfmauthor.com to see all the books I've created to help you break through in life. This is your host, Andrew Farabee, founder of knowledgeformen.com, and I'll see you in the next episode.